Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome back to Inventory Management Portal. This is Ali Raza and today I am going to tell you about how can we do the supplier ledger and the customer ledger stuff inside our Inventory Management Portal. Okay, so we have already the suppliers CRUD there available inside the project. So we only have to add the ledger inside the supplier, but we don't have the customers CRUD already. So in today's lecture we have to create the customers page also and then the ledger also for that. Okay, so let's start with the supplier. Let's go. Alright guys, so let us first see the problem. We have suppliers, we are adding suppliers inside this window, but where is the opening balance? We are creating the account of the supplier inside our project or inside our portal, so we have to pass the opening balance of the supplier. Okay, in this case, so we have to add an extra column, an extra text box here for the opening balance of the supplier. Okay, and likewise similarly we have to insert inside the ledger supplier table that we have created in the previous lectures. So let's go and do this. Let's close this and file and open the supplier drop down, supplier CRUD. So we have to very carefully modify the things. The reason why I am doing these things into parts, because so that you can be able to understand. If I directly do all these things together, then might be you get confused and you don't have any experience of doing all such things together. So let's add another form group, copy and paste, and here we can write opening balance. Opening balance. So from which balance I'm going to add the account or open the account. It should be text and OB text. Okay, and the next step is to save this, and now come inside the save button. When we are saving things, we have to receive the opening balance also. $OB is equals to $_post, and then single quotes or like double quotes as we have others, OB txt, and we have to apply the validate. So validate bracket open and then this one. Okay, now the next thing is insert supplier is the insert supplier code is executed successfully at this point. Now the next step is to insert into the ledger that opening balance, and we have to check the opening balance also. So let's come here and pass the values to the array. So let's create an array first, but before array we have to write an if else condition, that is if the opening balance is greater than 0. Okay, if the opening balance is greater than 0, that means that we are entering the amount in the debit column. Okay, else if the opening balance is less than 0, that means that we are adding inside the credit part. Okay, but what if it is equals to 0, then everything is 0. Okay, so let's write here else. If the amount is equals to 0, then we have to do something like this. Now the next step is to create an array. So let's define an array. $ARR2 is equals to array. Okay, and then we have to write here, if we have the case like this, then we have to pass $. Now see the column names that we want here inside the ledger insert. So let's go to the insert ledger stored procedure. Insert, let us see where is that. Okay, so we have supplier ledger insert. So you see, I want to pass the date, I want to pass the supplier ID, I want to pass the description, debit, credit and the balance. But you notice here, because I am saving the supplier for the first time, so I don't have the supplier ID, so I have to pick up the supplier ID as well. Okay, so how can I get the supplier ID? I have to write the code as code for that also, but let's first save the date. So dt is equals to we have a function inside PHP that is get date. Okay, so let us first store this, and then we have to create description, another variable that becomes the opening balance. Okay, and then we have to pass here the debit is equals to, you see when the amount is greater than 0, then the debit is the opening balance, okay, whatever the opening balance is, and the credit is 0. So we have to create these things, and then dollar balance is equals to dollar balance plus dollar debit minus dollar credit and semicolon. So debit, credit, balance, description and date we have got. These 4 columns we have done successfully. Now we need the last supplier ID. Okay, for that purpose let's go to the SQL. Do we have that get last supplier ID? So get last purchase ID we have, but we don't have the get last supplier ID. Let's go to the SQL and create a procedure here. Let me zoom in. So delimiter // delimiter semicolon, create procedure st underscore get last supplier ID round brackets, and here we have to create begin, end, and I'm creating here a select query. So select from suppliers S, order by S dot supplier ID descending limit 1. That means that the first supplier when I have ordered by will be the last supplier basically. Is that clear? I hope so. Order by supplier ID, so the last supplier ID will be at the top, and I have picked up only the first record, limit 1. If I want the top 2 records, then limit 2. If I want top 3 records, then I will write limit 3 and so on. So I want the last record. Okay, so select what? Select the supplier ID. So S dot supplier ID as ID. That's it. That's my stored procedure completed. Now let's execute. Okay, it shows me an error. Okay, we have to specify space here and then now click on the go button. Now you see stored procedure already exists. That means that it's created successfully. Okay, now get last supplier ID. I wanted to get this record. So let's go to the file that we have created, open, and go to the load list. Here let's create a common function because we need the last ID for other things as well. So let's copy this function and paste it here and give here the procedure name and the connection only. Instead of this, write here get last ID, a common function I am creating, and then the procedure name, whatever the procedure name will be, and then select. I don't need any select because I want only the ID. For that purpose, what I can do, I can simply remove this line and this line. Okay, MySQL underscore fetch underscore raw, whatever the result will be, I want it to store inside a variable. So let's create a variable here, $ID, and then $ID is equals to, because we get the only one ID. Okay, so can I write here $raw of 0, that will become my ID, and instead of this what I can do, I will return this ID, return $ID. So when this function will call, what we will get from this function, the ID of the procedure that we have passed to this, that we will pass to this. Okay, so get last ID is my function. Let's check this function whether it is working or not. So get last ID, where I have to call, I have to call here inside an already PHP script. So I have to import this first, load list, so include and double quotes load list.php, save, and now we have to write here like dollar supplier ID is equals to get last ID, and the procedure name is, we have just created this one, and come here and paste get last supplier ID. We don't have to pass any parameter, and then the connection. Hopefully this connection will work, and then we'll get the supplier ID. Okay, now after this the next step is to pass these details into an array after getting the supplier ID. Okay, but before going to the insert actual code, we have to make it a little bit correct, because get date is a function that is returning an array. So of course I don't want to store the date inside an array at this point, so we have another function that is gm date, and let's open it, and you see it asks for the format. So I have to pass the format how I want the date. So let's take here D, that's for day, capital M for month, and then YY for 4-digit here. Okay, that is 2020 in this case. So it will give me a date something like this, that is 21-Feb-2020, something like this. Okay, this is the format, and gm date returns expects a format. So the date will be stored inside this. Now let's try to add inside the array. So $arr, let's try to create directly, remove this and paste it here. So if this is the case, then the first thing that I have to pass inside the insert ledger, let's go back, and here we have to check insert supplier ledger. Again, open it. So first thing is the date, then supplier ID. Okay, so the date is inside DT, so $DT, comma, then we have the supplier ID, and then we have to pass the description. So the description is DES, and then we have to pass the debit, credit, and balance. So $debit, and then $credit, and then $balance. So these are the things that I have to pass inside the array. Now it's time to execute the script. For that purpose, let's copy this, okay, or cut this message from here, because I don't want to display the message again and again. I want only one message to be displayed. Okay, so that's why I have cut that message and paste it here. Okay, but instead of this insert supplier today, I have to make it insert supplier ledger. That's fine. And now because the array is ARR2, so ARR2, okay, and the name, because we have name already upwards, so it will display. Now this is the case only when the opening balance is greater than 0. Okay, if the opening balance is greater than 0, and we have to check here a condition, that is if not empty. What is not empty? This should not be empty. Okay, opening balance should be given. Then you should insert. If all the 4 text boxes are complete, then you should insert. So opening balance will be there. And now what we have to do, we have to specify this same code if the condition is less than this. For that purpose, what we can do, we can simply put this code. I will reduce this code later on. Just see now what I am doing. If this is less than this, then this opening balance should move here, and here the debit should be 0, and the rest of the rings remains the same. Now you see the code is repeated. So inside if else, we can simply traverse these things and put the rest of the codes outside the if, so that the code should not be repeated. So what I am doing, I am pasting the code here. Let's copy this code and paste it here. Okay, just outside the if. Now instead of getting these things again and again, just remove these things from if, so that the code won't be repeated, and remove this and else. I hope it is clear up till now. So if the amount of the opening balance is greater than 0, then the debit, and that's the formula. Okay, Formula can also be, because formula is similar, so you can move this formula outside this. So we have already this formula here, remove, and that's fine now. Okay, so if the OB is greater than 0, then debit should be is equals to opening balance and the credit is 0, and if the opening balance is less than you can say the 0, then the debit is 0 and it should be credited. But how can we specify, or how can we insert the record? Of course, when the user will insert inside, give the negative sign with the amount, let's say minus 5,000, then this condition will execute. I hope it is clear to everyone, minus 5,000. And then what if it is neither 0, not less than 0, or neither greater than 1, sorry, greater than 0, then we have to put these things 0 and 0. Okay, so debit, credit, both are 0 if we enter 0. Now just remove this, because we have debit credit set already upwards, no need to. So this is how we have shortened our code. Then we have description, then we have everything, date, balance is calculated, last supplier ID is there, array is there, and then insert supplier ledger is there, everything is fine now. Okay, so this is the code we have to perform. Now this is the thing that we have done only in the save button. What if when we are updating the things? Okay, so we have to retrieve the users, sorry, the suppliers. Let's go to the retrieve suppliers or get suppliers. Now because we have suppliers not alone here, we have the ledger of the supplier also. Okay, what I can do, I can specify a condition here. Let me zoom, and I can write here inner join ledger supplier ls on supplier.id is equals to ls dot supplier ID. That means I have joined the ledger with the supplier. Okay, now one thing I am passing here, where s dot ls dot description is equals to opening balance. So I wanted to show the opening balance of the supplier only, so only that record will be picked up, opening balance. Okay, let me show you the PHP, because in the description what I have passed, the opening balance, you see. So only pick up that record in which the description is written opening balance. That's it. I hope it is clear. Now the next thing is to execute this query. Still we don't have any thing, but one thing that we have to call here is ls dot balance. So the balance of the supplier will be displayed, and then press execute. So you see it has been modified now. Now we'll get the balance. So how many columns do we have inside the get suppliers? Let's pick up get suppliers again. Okay, 1 2 3 4, and that's the 5th column. Okay, so 0 1 2 3 4. Now let's come inside the retrieve here. So we have to add another TD for retrieving, for displaying the balance. So where is our TD? Here it is. Here we should add. So TD and TD close, and here we have to pass $raw of 4. Okay, so that the opening balance should display. And one more thing we have to add is the heading. So copy and paste, and here we can write opening balance, save. So all the suppliers along with their opening balances should display. Let's check till now. So view. So you see it's saying that no suppliers are available at a point. Let's try to add a supplier. Okay, so it should be Kumail. Let's say phone number is this, address is Sadar, let's say, and opening balance is 1000 rupees, and then save. So Kumail added successfully, but it's saying that the balance is an undefined variable. Okay, that's the problem. Let's check it out where it is. Inside the, yeah, here it is. So that's my balance. Balance is there. Okay. Yes, the problem is with this because we don't have any balance right now by default. So what we have to do, first of all, we have to put the balance equals to 0. Now it will do perform addition and subtraction because the balance was empty. Now let's save, but the problem is we have got the supplier inside the supplies table. So let's remove that. This can be avoided. You see this type of situation when we have to perform multiple executions on one single click, then we apply transactions. But right now to make this software simple, I am not applying transaction, but later on we will do that transactions also. So that if one table gives error, then the other query will automatically roll back rather than inserting. So let's remove this. Okay, no, you see we don't have the record inserted, okay, automatically because of the error. Now let's check it again. Supplier Junaid 1234556, address is this, opening balance is 1000, and save. So you see still Junaid added successfully, but it shows me the connection error on line number 50. Maybe it's the connection error. Let's check it out. Line number 150. So that's the point. Get suppliers. Okay, get suppliers is the, okay guys, so the problem is I have executed the query and along with that I have displayed the message. So what mistake I have done here is I have removed the execution of the supplier. Okay, that's the problem. So let's first write here again insert, but this time I don't want to display any message. I am just executing this without any message. So insert supplier ledger, remove this, and we have the procedure insert supplier if I am not wrong. So you have to do things very carefully. SUPPLIER, and here we have SUPPLIER. Okay, and here the array name is this. That's fine. Okay, so insert supplier. Now let's go to the SQL and remove this data inside the ledger. So check all and delete. Are you sure? Yes, because only ledger was inserting but the supplier was not inserted. Okay, that's why the problem persists. Now let's check what's the output. Okay, supplier name Naeem 12345, address Sadar, opening balance 1000, save. Okay, now it's added successfully. It's displaying me the message. Let's go to the suppliers table. So you see name is there, and let's check the ledger of the supplier. So you see inside debit column we have 1000 and the balance is 1000. Okay, let's try to add, but the problem is with the retrieval code. Okay, we will see the retrieval. Alright, so because the date was not also coming, so let's try to change this to this format. Okay, with the help of the date function and D. Okay, after changing the date, let's try to put a condition here also. If opening balance is equals to 0, because we have to check for the 0 as well. Okay, so then put these things as 0. Now let's check it out. Okay, so name Kamil, phone number, address, opening balance. Let's first pass the negative balance and save. We'll tackle this problem, but first check it out whether the data is going inside this perfectly or not. So you see now the negative balance is there, but the negative sign is also there. We don't want to pass the negative sign. Okay, For that purpose, what we have to do, because why we don't want the negative sign, because we have already stored the data inside the credit part. Ultimately, when this formula comes into the context, we will get that negative sign, and you see this negative balance equals to balance plus debit minus credit, so that minus credit is giving me the positive number. So that's the problem. So that's why I have to change when we have the negative sign. So instead of this, I am simply specifying a formula that is ABS of the maths class and pass it. Absolute is a function that removes the negativity from the number and then store it. Simple. Now let's check it out. What's the result? So name, let's say Umair, phone number is any, address is North Karachi, and the opening balance is minus 5,000, and save. So we have saved Umair. Now let's refresh this, and you see now this is showing me the correct figures, that the balance of the Umair is minus 5,000. That is the thing that I wanted to see. And in the credit, we have already demonstrated that this is the part that he has to pay. Simple as that. Now let's check for the 0. So let's go back to the supplier and refresh this and add, let's say, Hussein, and phone number is any, and this, and then 0, and then save. So you see on 0 it neither inserted nor displayed a message. Let's refresh and check what's the problem. So you see the opening balance is not there, and the supplier Hussein is also not there. Okay, so we have to tackle this. What's the problem? Alright guys, so the problem is with the zeros is when we use this empty function. Okay, so 0 is considered as empty or blank. So if you write here 00 or 000, then it will accept. But when you specify a single 0 in a text box, then it will not accept. So what we can do, we can, instead of empty, we can write here is set. Now let's check whether is set supports 0 or not. So save, and the rest of the things remains the same. So let's start and execute. So name, let's say HHH, phone is HHH, address is this, and the opening balance is 0, and save. So you see it is not accepting. But if I remove this, let's try to check whether it is accepting if I remove this is set like this and save, and then come here and then preview in Chrome. Now let's check, and 0, and save. So you see now. So that is the problem. So the is set and the empty functions are considering only 0 as blank input. But there is another thing that you can specify. Let us try that also. So let's go back to the Dreamweaver and press Ctrl Z and put your empty function again. Save it. Now let's try to do one other thing. That is, this is not 1. Let me write here y so that you can't get confused. Okay, now if I write here 0.00, that's another condition, okay, that you can use. Now save. You see y added successfully, but with the empty also. Okay, so you can pass 0.00, or you can specify a simple jQuery that if the user enters 0 here, then automatically the text will be appended with .00. I hope it is clear to everyone. So we can do that later on, but for today we have learned that how can we add data inside the two tables together. That is the suppliers table. Let us refresh this. So you see now I have these suppliers, and let's go to the ledger of the supplier. Here we have the ledger. So you see now when we have 0 0, so everything is 0. How we omitted negative, I have told you that, and this is how we can create the ledger of a supplier. So whenever a new supplier will be added, its ledger will be started from now onwards. I hope it is clear to everyone. So the next step is to do the same work with the customers. So we have to add first the customers inside the database from the PHP, and then we also create the ledger of that customers too. So that's all for today, but let's remove this error, that is this one, and this error is about the connection maybe. So it's on line number 151. So line number 151, let's check it out. Right guys, so let's try to pass the connection inside the retrieve function with the help of let's try to utilize inside the retrieve function. Where is the retrieve function? Here we have the retrieve function. So instead of creating the global connection, let's pass the connection as parameter. Okay, let's pass the connection as parameter and then remove this connection from here. Now save, and wherever we have called the retrieve function, we have to pass now the connection. So after the insert, let's first check it out here inside this. So connection. Okay, if the problem persists still, then we create a new connection and pass it and check whether it is working or not. So let's run this now. Okay, so any record, just add it out and save. No, it's still not accepting. Okay, now let's try to create a pass a new connection. For that purpose, let's go to the connection and copy this connection, come here inside the source, and before retrieval, let's paste this connection with con2 and pass here con2. Okay, now let's check whether it is working or not. So UUU and 0.00 and check. Yes. So you see the problem is this. Now I have everything, but the time for today's lecture is about to finish. Guys, in the next lecture I'll continue with the update stuff because we have modified so many things. So we have to change everywhere the retrieve function we have utilized. Okay, and then we'll continue. So that's all for today. Hope you have learned a lot of things. Thank you so much. Take care. Allah Hafiz.